Thank you, Moderator, and the Minister of Environment, Sustainable Development and Ecological Transition of Ivory Coast, my sister Rose, our friend of many years, Anthony Young, a pioneer on these conversations. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to stand by the existing protocol. And once again, let me start by expressing our sincere gratitude to UN Economic Commission for Africa, African Union Commission, and African Development Bank for anchoring the voice of the civil society as a major partner in this CleanDev Africa initiative. And with that, mention that it is an honor to be with you today at this all-important 12th Conference on Climate Change and Development in Africa. As we gather at this time, when the stakes have never been higher for our continent, as the previous speakers have said. The theme of this conference, Financing Climate Adaptation in Africa, resonates with the urgent challenges we face as humanity and the planet. The devastating impacts of climate change are being felt across Africa with increasing severity, threatening economies, ecosystems, and communities. And as you have heard from Rose, you know, it is really interconnected. The question is, how do we deal with it? We must act decisively, not just in response to these challenges and what she is calling polycrisis, but in shaping a future where our continent thrives despite all these challenges. This year, we stand on the threshold of a critical juncture in international climate discourse process. And as we look towards COP29 in November, it is imperative that Africa speaks with one voice. We want to emphasize that because that is when we have a bargain. We want to demand justice and the support we need to confront the climate crisis head-on. And as you are aware, the conclusions of the global stocktake at COP28 in Dubai painted a sobering picture. The world is off track in meeting the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal set under the Paris Agreement. This shortfall is not just a failure of policy. It is a failure that puts lives, livelihoods, and the future of our children, as well as the health of the planet, at risk. Africa, as we know, is a minor emitter of greenhouse gases. Yet, we are disproportionately bearing the brunt of these global emissions. The consequences of climate change are decimating our lands, from the rising seas that threaten coastal communities to the persistent droughts that ravage our agriculture and our traditional ways of life. The escalating climate-induced displacements, with millions forced to leave their homes due to flooding and storms. But more importantly, climate-inspired conflict in countries like Sudan and elsewhere is a stark reminder that we are on the front lines of a battle we did not start. But we must not face this crisis alone. The need for climate adaptation in Africa is urgent and undeniable, yet the financial resources required to achieve this adaptation and resilience building remain elusive. And if you hear the African Development Bank, as you have heard, Professor Anthony Young talking about 25 billion US dollars they are mobilizing, you just look at that. What does that mean for Africa? Is it even a fraction of what we need in our country? I'm not criticizing African Development Bank, it is doing its part. But what is the global community? Where is all this money going? We have been talking about that it's not the insufficiency of money. There is massive resources in this world. What we do not have is political goodwill. I always remind people that when there were pledges being done in the COP28, because that was the first agenda on loss and damage, the US, the biggest historical emitter, pledged $17 billion out of the almost 700 million US, which was pledged. Small countries like Saudi Arabia did better than them. But months later, the US Congress, the House, and in one sitting, mobilized and pledged, committed $95 billion for the war in Ukraine and the war in Gaza and Taiwan. You can imagine $95 billion. So what does that tell me? Compare that with $17 million. It is because there is no political will on climate action until the time we realize that this is a crisis like another, more important than war killing people in Gaza and those others. That is when we are going to be serious and put money where it is required. So, ladies and gentlemen, you know about the $100 billion per year pledged in 2009. This is actually another joke, though only putatively reached, because they say, you look at OECD report, they say they have met it, but go to your village and tell me that woman pastoralist whether they have seen that money. This falls short of the estimated 1.3 trillion required to really bridge this gap. The gap between what is needed and what is provided continue to grow, undermining our efforts to build resilience, create jobs, and foster green growth. As the global goal on adaptation is being negotiated, and we hope it will end very soon, I want to emphasize the importance of need-based financing. Africa's adaptation needs are unique and significant, driven by the continent's particular vulnerability to climate change. We cannot afford a one-size-fits-all approach. Financing must be tailored to the specific challenges faced by our communities, ensuring that funds reach those who need them most and are used effectively to build resilience and protect livelihoods. This is not just a matter of justice, it is a matter of survival. Africa's vast carbon sinks, particularly in where we are, the Congo Basin and this region, represent a significant opportunity for green finance through carbon markets. However, these markets, highly romanticized in Africa as a major source of climate finance, remains underdeveloped and misunderstood on our continent, leaving us without the compensation that is rightfully ours for the ecological services and the stewardship which we provide. We must work together to unlock potential of these resources, if they at all exist, because some of us believe that they don't. We have never seen them. Ensuring that Africa receives fair compensation for its contributions to global carbon sequestration. Moreover, ladies and gentlemen, we must recognize the vital role that Africa's critical minerals play in driving the global energy transition. Minerals such as cobalt, lithium, and rare earth elements are essential for the production of batteries, electric vehicles, and renewable energy technologies. And Africa owns a significant share of these resources, and it is imperative that we leverage this advantage to drive the industrialization and development of our continent. However, this must be done through local value addition, ensuring that benefits of these resources are retained within Africa, creating jobs, building infrastructure, and fostering sustainable economic development. We cannot allow our resources to be extracted and exported without driving full value from them. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, as we convene here in Abidjan, we have a unique opportunity to shape Africa's position ahead of COP29, and I'm very happy that we are again doing this meeting ahead of the AMSEN. We must push for the full realization of the new collective quantified goal on climate finance. It's very fundamental. We must demand faster technology transfer, and we must finalize the rules govern carbon markets. I know we have started that at African Union Conference on Carbon Markets, but really we need to anchor this into our conversations. The upcoming Conference of Parties in Baku must address the outstanding issues of adaptation finance, loss and damage, and ensure Africans' needs are met. They are not yet met. The challenges, of course, are formidable, but so too are opportunities. We have a lot of opportunities. These I've already outlined. By scaling up climate action, particularly at the intersection of climate change, biodiversity, pollution, desertification, we can unlock new avenues for sustainable development. We can and must lead the way in creating future where African cities, African communities, and ecosystems are resilient and are thriving. And as PACJA, we are committed, as usual, to doing our part and part of the civil society and non-state actors. But we have conviction that working with others assures us of quicker victories. And that's actually the beauty of this ClimDev initiative. Ahead of this conference, we hosted a series of pre-events, bringing together participants working in various intersections of climate action. Since 28th, we have been here. We convinced stakeholders to examine the challenges and opportunities for financing adaptation. And this is going to feed into the sessions here. We were also discussing how to foster collaborations on advancing a narrative on needs-based financing of adaptation, because it must speak to the people at the local level, financing locally led climate action, and some countries are doing well because that is where we have missed the point. And also exploring strategies for leveraging Africa's critical minerals wealth to advance our development, interrogating the role of parliamentarians in Africa's climate conversations, because these important actors have been left out, but we are happy they are catching up, among others. This prevents, Your Excellency, allowed us to reflect on the crucial issues that must be considered to solve the climate crisis, and we look forward to sharing perspectives from these crucial events during this CCDA. Remember that the African people are counting on us to provide lasting solutions to our mounting challenges and are calling for action, which we must provide. A new study, for instance, that has just been released by one of the research bodies in Africa, called Afrobarometer, finds that a significant number of citizens are not aware about climate change. In some countries, like where I come from, up to 40% people do not understand this. So is it a conversation about elites? So, but also they have acknowledged that those who understand it know where the priorities should go. How do we approach the issue of low-carbon, climate-resilient future driven by turning our infrastructure into solar and wind power? That's where we need to invest. We can expect people from every corner of the continent to put pressure on governments and the other actors if we fail to take the action that are required to improve things. As we proceed with the discussions over the next few years, few days, ladies and gentlemen, let us be guided by a spirit of unity and determination. In a year when we are not going to have the African Climate Week, these externally driven initiatives, and that's why we treasure this very important, our enduring CCDA, we should turn Abidjan a moment where, in spite of resource constraints, as we were told by the UNFCCC, our voices, our experiences, our solutions must shape the global climate agenda. Other regions in the world are not able to meet, because as Africa, we prepared with our CCDA 12 years ago without bothering about Africa Climate Week, which is going to be determined from externally. When people have money like a project, they take us as a project. But here we are. So this is our Africa Climate Week. Together, we can forge a path that not only addresses the challenges of today, but also lays the foundation for a prosperous Africa, resilient Africa. I wish all of us fruitful deliberation, ladies and gentlemen, and look forward for the outcome that is going to be really enduring for us in Africa and everyone. I thank you all.